A great swarm of earthquakes off the Washington coast is raising concerns that the Cascadia subduction zone could blow, Michael Snyder reports. An area off the coast of Washington state is being shaken by hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes. So is this an indication of potential trouble for the Cascadia subduction zone? At this point, there is so much that we don't know. Scientists are telling us that the quakes are centered around a large underwater volcano. The underwater volcano does not pose a threat at all, but if an enormous earthquake along the Cascadia subduction zone were to trigger a giant tsunami that slams into the west coast, that would be a historic disaster of epic proportions. The frequency of earthquakes that we're witnessing off the coast of Washington is extremely alarming. It's being reported that earlier this month there were as many as 200 in a single hour. Scientists have detected a great swarm of earthquakes off the coast of Washington, clocking as many as 200 in a single hour during one day. That is a lot of quakes. According to one of the experts that has been monitoring this area, there were over 2,000 earthquakes in a single day. That's about 10 times as active as it normally is, said Jesse Hutchison, a junior staff scientist with ONC, an ocean observation facility based at the University of Victoria. He said more than 2,000 earthquakes had been detected in one day. Why haven't we heard more about this? If I was living on the West Coast, I would definitely want this to be in the news. We're being told that this great swarm of earthquakes potentially means that a magmatic rupture is imminent. The great swarm of earthquakes followed multiple days of increasingly frequent quakes, according to Ocean Networks Canada, ONC, which is collecting the data for researchers to study. The spike indicated a possible impending magmatic rupture, the research group reports. A magmatic rupture, which occurs when the Earth's crust splits open for some reason and spills molten rock out, is a natural phenomenon that can form new ocean floor, according to Zoe Kraus, a marine seismologist PhD candidate at the University of Washington. A magmatic rupture would not be a problem, but what happens if this area continues to shake violently and eventually an extremely large earthquake is triggered along the Cascadia subduction zone? As Popular Mechanics has accurately observed, that would create the sort of disaster that very few people want to see. In this case, there are two opposing forces. The North American plate, an enormous tectonic plate that carries the entire continental United States on its back, versus the 90,000 square mile Juan de Fuca plate located in the ocean off Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. For the past 200 million years, these two have been squaring off in an epic wrestling match in an area known as the Cascadia Subduction Zone, or CSZ. Trust us, nobody wants to see the end of this round, yet only a few people seem truly bothered. Seismologists, emergency management professionals, and those who have experienced earthquakes before. It's certain that the Northwest will experience a devastating earthquake again, since Chris Goldfinger, an oceanographer at Oregon State University and one of the world's leading experts on subduction zone earthquakes. Goldfinger tells Popular Mechanics, "We have no idea of the timing and how urgent it is. People tend to ignore it in that case. The majority of the public, as well as most governments in the Northwest, are not yet pushing to implement the extensive infrastructure changes and early warning communications systems needed to save tens of thousands of lives." Such an earthquake could potentially create a colossal tsunami that's hundreds of feet high. A tsunami of that magnitude would cause destruction on a scale that most of us cannot even imagine right now. It would be hundreds of feet high. In 2015, the former head of FEMA's Region X was quoted by The New Yorker as saying that everything west of Interstate 5 will be toast. If the entire zone gives way at once, an event that seismologists can call a full margin rupture, the magnitude will be somewhere between 8.7 and 9.2 Richter, and that's a very big one. By the time the shaking has ceased and the tsunami has receded, the region will be unrecognizable. Kenneth Murphy, who directs FEMA's Region X, The division responsible for Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Alaska says our operating assumption is that everything west of Interstate 5 will be toast. In the Pacific Northwest, everything west of Interstate 5 covers some 140,000 square miles, including Seattle, Tacoma, Portland, Eugene, Salem, the capital city of Oregon, Olympia, the capital of Washington, and some 7 million people. It would be the greatest natural disaster in the entire recorded history of our nation up to that point. Sadly, it is inevitable that the great natural disasters will come. Our planet is becoming so unstable that we're seeing very strange things happen all over the globe. For example, very long and very deep cracks in the ground have started to appear in Libya. Yes, Libya. Unusually large and deep earth cracks have suddenly appeared in an agricultural region of Tripoli, Libya, causing alarm among the local population. In response, the Libyan government has initiated an investigation and dispatched a specialized geological team from the Ministry of Local Governance to conduct thorough surveys of the affected areas, particularly focusing on agricultural lands. Parallelly, the Libyan Ministry of Environment and their Environmental Affairs Monitoring Department in Al-Sheba are taking the lead in overseeing the documenting and ground cracks. This concerted effort aims to compile a detailed report which will serve as a critical tool in understanding the origins, implications, and potential risks posed by the fissures. And we have reached a stage where we are constantly witnessing unusual shaking all over the globe. Just yesterday, magnitude 3.8 earthquake rattled a very large area in northern Israel. We know Israel, of course, the Sea of Galilee is a volcanic lake. Quite a while ago, I should do more on the geology of Israel, but we know from Geology 101 in university, every river is a fault line. And we know the Jordan River, which passes through the Sea of Galilee, all the way down to the Dead Sea, is a river. And we have the prophecy saying that is going to be, in the end of days, there's going to be a very big earthquake that is going to take place right there in Israel. So yesterday, the magnitude 3.8 earthquake rattled a very large area in northern Israel. Residents of northern and central Israel reported feeling an earthquake on Wednesday, Israel media reported. The Geological Institute reported that the earthquake felt by northern residents had a magnitude of 3.8 on the Richter scale and occurred at a depth of approximately 17 kilometers. There were reports that the earthquake was felt in Tiberias, the Jordan Valley, Carmel, Haifa, and Hadera area. Some felt the earthquake even further south in areas such as Rehovot and Modin. Today, a magnitude 5.8 earthquake that shook the Fukushima prefecture of Japan made lots of headlines as well. An earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 5.8 hit eastern Japan early Friday, the Japan Meteorological Agency said. The epicenter of the earthquake was off the coast of Fukushima prefecture, where strong tremors are recorded, the agency said, adding that a tsunami warning had not been issued. As I discussed in my latest book entitled Chaos, I believe that we're entering the most tumultuous period in all of human history. And natural disasters will be a big part of that. If I was living on the West Coast, I would be watching what's happening very closely, because one of these days disaster will finally strike, and large numbers of people living along the coast will needlessly die. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon.com. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Time, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on the other websites. You can connect with Michael on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and share his articles on your own social media account is definitely a great help. These are just troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.